going to get started. Friends, this is Daily Power Parsha. It's February 9th, 2021. It's Tuesday. Parsha's Mishpatim. We are going to jump into our text. Mishpatim talks about the laws, primarily civil law, not religious law as much as it is civil law, between the laws governing how we treat each other. In our first reading yesterday, we spoke about the laws pertaining to the Jewish notion of slavery. We spoke about interpersonal law regarding torts and damages and respecting parents. Okay, let's continue. Okay, here we go. Chapter 21, verse number 20. I'm looking at this. Manischewitz, I wish the translations were different. We're going to work with the translation we have, and I'm going to explain to you the meaning of this. This is the second reading. We're going to try to do 2 and 3 today. We'll see how far we get. And should a man, this is again about physical injury and personal injury law in Judaism and Torah. Should a man strike his manservant or his maidservant with a rod, and that one die under his hand, he shall surely be avenged. In other words, there is no dispensation for saying, oh, you killed somebody who's a servant or a maid, a manservant or maidservant. Oh, that's not 100% the same value of life as anyone else. The Torah says, no, that is considered to be murder. If he survives for a day or two, he shall not be avenged because he is his property. Again, property doesn't mean it. Literally property. It just means that if the person is not killed, if the person survives, then it is not considered, as we said before, a capital punishment. And in this situation, it's even more sticky because at the end of the day, this guy still works for him. So now it just becomes a little bit of a tense situation, because this guy didn't just injure any human being, injured somebody who is living in his home, etc. Which is why our sages tell us, and it comes from the Torah, that in a case where the master, so to speak, the balabas, injures the manservant or maidservant, that actually are grounds for that relationship to be finished. Let's continue inside. Again, it's about protecting even again, I know that his property, that doesn't sound right to our sensibilities. It doesn't mean to demean the individual who's working for the other. On the contrary, these are laws to protect their rights, the rights of the manservant, maidservant. At a time when, servants, slaves, whatever, did not have any rights, the Torah is granting tremendous rights, and more than rights, divine identity to all. Let's continue. And should men quarrel and hit a pregnant woman, and she miscarries, but there is no fatality, he shall surely be punished. So what it means by miscarriage but no fatality, it means that the pregnant woman doesn't die, but she miscarries because of the injury, then he shall surely be punished. In other words, you can't just say, oh, I just caused the fetus to the pregnant to miscarry, but I didn't harm, I didn't take a life, the life of the pregnant woman. There's still a punishment to be meted out to the person who strikes this woman. When the woman's husband makes demands of him, and he shall give restitution according to the judge's orders, which means basically that the husband should be pressing charges, or she could press charges. And then there's a restitution based on the judge's orders. But if there's a fatality, as we said before, you shall give a life for a life, right? If there's a fatality, if the pregnant woman dies, God forbid, right? Then it's a capital punishment. So what's interesting here is that the Torah, it's interesting. And this could veer into a conversation about the Torah's perspective on when life begins, which is a very interesting, and I'll just cut to the chase, unclear topic. Even from the sources, there's no clarity. Even if we could think we found clarity here, it talks about these things, but we're not going to find a definitive answer as far as when life formally begins in Jewish law. There are different stages, but what's clear from this text is two things. Number one, the fetus that is miscarried here because of the injury. it's not considered to be a capital crime that deserves a capital punishment. Does that make sense? We're not saying that if the miscarriage happens, then the person that caused it, the fellow who struck her, should be executed. Does not say that. So clearly that life, potential life, is not considered to be the same, if you will, as a capital case. At the same time, it's also not insignificant, right? Or it's not insignificant in the sense that one could say, well, it's nothing. I didn't do anything. Miscarriage. Nothing happened. That's not true. Something happened. So the Torah straddles the line between. The Torah basically grants an identity to the fetus and says that therefore, if one, God forbid, damages, harms the fetus, there is a punishment, but it's not a capital punishment. So it's something, but it's not necessarily a full-fledged life like the life of the mother, that if you would kill her, then he would obviously be liable, not necessarily be executed, but be liable for that punishment. I hope what I'm saying makes sense without jumping into the whole topic. It's a very complicated topic. The Talmud also, by the way, kind of channeling this middle ground, right? It's not like the life of the mother. It's not nothing. It's something, kind of some other status, which has value.
It seems like it's not a life, but there are damages associated with the loss, even though it is not on the same value as a death.
Right. And it's based on this that the Talmud says something very interesting that I don't know if everybody knows, but I think it's important to bear in mind. And I always think about this when there's abortion. The abortion debate has been going on, or it's been an ongoing conversation and heated dialogue. I just read something that I thought to be just shocking. Honduras, the country, right? Honduras. Yeah, am I pronouncing that correctly? Yeah. All right. The country in Central America, right? Or South America, I think Central America, has one of the most restrictive abortion laws of any country in the world, prohibiting abortion. I just read this like 2 days ago. Prohibiting abortion even in cases of rape and incest, et cetera, and possible harm, like just across the board, like basically forbidding any sorts of abortion. And you might think, well, what's the Jewish perspective, Torah's perspective? It's probably like very religious. The Talmud says, without blinking an eye, that, and this is clear, I think it's a Mishnah even, says that if a woman is pregnant and the pregnancy is dangerous to her, it's harmful for her, right? So then there's no problem. And I don't mean to make it sound casual, but you're allowed to, and perhaps even required to, abort the pregnancy to preserve the life and well-being of the mother, which could also be perhaps also applied to other forms of life threats. Mental health and emotional health. Again, now is not the time to apply this, but clearly there is an allowance. And Rashi on the Mishnah or on the Talmud, on that piece, Rashi, the great commentary, explains that why is it permitted? Because again, one could argue that the fetus is a life, and how do you kill one to save the other? He says, because the fetus is not a full-fledged life like the mother's life, which means that there is some element of life, but it's not the same, if you will, as the mother. And we see this, I think, reflected here in this case where there is liability. It's a big deal. It's a horrible thing that just happened. It's a horrible crime. It's not a capital crime. So it's one level below that. Again, I don't know that this gives us clarity, but it's certainly a beginning point for a conversation, which is a longer conversation. Let's continue. Verse 23 again, let me just pick it up from here because it's a bit of a continuous thing. If there's a fatality, right, then as we read yesterday, you shall give a life for life, capital punishment. Oh, check this out. An eye for an eye, the famous line, an eye for an eye. This is where it comes from. A tooth for a tooth, a hand for hand, and a foot for a foot, a burn for a burn, a wound for a wound, a bruise for a bruise. I think you kind of got the picture, right? A thing for a thing is what the Torah is saying. But I need to quickly dispel a misconception. It doesn't mean that if a person damages another person's eye, God forbid, then you damage their eye, or knocks out someone's tooth, you knock out their tooth. That's not what it means. And I know what you're thinking. What do you mean it's not what it means? It's literally what it's saying. And I'm telling you, that's not what it means. I am sitting here telling you today that an eye for an eye does not mean an eye for an eye. So why does it say it? What it's saying, the Talmud, this is not me, it's the Talmud. Every legitimate Torah commentary source understands this the same way, and it's not a new interpretation. As we've discussed before, God told Moses to write, but he told Moses what it means. And Moses gave us the book, the written, and he told us what it means. This is what it means, all the way back to Moses from God. Monetary payment. A life for a life is capital, but the rest are monetary. The amount of damage for the eye, the amount of damage for the tooth. I mentioned yesterday 5 different categories of payment when it comes to causing personal injury. The first of which is nezek, the damage, the amount of damage. It's a payment. So this means payment. It doesn't mean actually injuring the other party. It's payment. There's a great allusion, a hint in these words, ayin tachat ayin, an eye for an eye. I'm going to try to share it in a coherent fashion, but it's very much Hebrew based. So work with me. The word tachas or tachat means, translated here is for, right? Ayin, an eye, tachas for, ayin, another eye. So an eye for an eye. Tachas, it translated here is like in exchange for. But I'm saying it doesn't mean literally the eye. It means the value. You pay the exchange of the value of the eye. The word tachas, though, can also mean beneath, right? So that which is below something else. So there's something, and then beneath it is tachat, beneath it. So it could either mean an exchange or beneath. I know doing Hebrew deep dive analysis, but work with me. There's a beautiful commentary that says tachas, which is usually translated here as for or as an exchange, could also mean beneath. When you take the word ayin, which means eye, the letter, it's comprised of 3 letters, the letter ayin, yud, and nun. Take those 3 letters, and in the Hebrew alphabet, look at the letters immediately beneath those 3 letters. The letter that comes after ayin, again, beneath, right? Tachat means beneath. So what comes beneath these 3 letters? The first letter ayin, the letter that follows that is a pei. Remember that, pei. Beneath the yud is a chaf. Remember that. Beneath the nun is a samach. Remember that. Pei, chaf, and samach. Rearrange those letters, and it spells the word kesef, which means gelt, money. And I know I just did a pretty elaborate Hebraic analysis, but the bottom line is there's a hint in this word, in ayin, tachas, ayin. Tachas means under. The letters under ayin spell the word kesef, and that, which means money, and that again indicates that this is a monetary payment and not a physical, corporal punishment meted out by the court. Let's continue. Oh, this is what I mentioned before. It's right here. Boom. If a man, again, we're moving quickly through the next topic. If a man strikes the eye of his maidservant, or the eye of his, manservant, or the eye of his maidservant, and destroys it, God forbid, he shall set him free in return for his eye. In other words, that's done. It's done. He's gone, and there's payments involved, etc. And if he knocks out the tooth of his manservant or maidservant, same deal. Return him, set him free in return for his tooth. Cannot live under abusive situations. And this, again, it's unbelievable how the Torah, from the beginning, precludes the possibility, if you follow the law, of an abusive relationship. Literally, the penalty or the consequence of any sort of damage is immediate separation, done. No longer working for you. Let alone the fact that a slave is not a slave the way we understand it. But this is part of it. right? Think about the slavery that we think about is abuse and beatings and hardship, and that none of that is even on the table. That's automatic grounds for the undoing of that relationship. So anyway, hope that's coming across. And yeah, Donna, don't forget to unmute. Yeah.
Do we know why that the meanings interpretations are elusive, that we need to analyze the Hebrew words to get to the true meaning instead of being direct, literal?
Excellent question. Excellent question. So there's a few answers. Number one, if everything was spelled out, the Torah would be massive. You could also argue, so who cares? Let it be massive. Well, that gets into a second point, which is, and you're reminding me now, we need to do a course called Judaism Decoded. We did it a few years ago. We got to do it again. That talks about this. It's a great course. It talks about the whole flow from Sinai till today, like the whole evolution of Torah, the whole body of Torah, how it evolves, biblical law, rabbinic law, Talmud, everything from then till now. We're going to do it. Please God. That's a great idea. All right. But I'll give you a short few points to ponder. Number one, it would be massive. Yeah, that's a technical answer. I mean, it's like it's not such a great answer. Next, number two, God wanted that we should have to work to understand the meaning. Because if the meaning was there, then no one would need to study it. Let me explain. When you have all the information in the book, why do you need to study the book? If you need to reference it, you should open up the book and pull it off the shelf. But if you know that the text is not going to help you understand it, the text is going to be it's like a speech. You could write out your speech. You could write up bullet points, right? The bullet points are not a reminder, but it's not the whole deal. This is God essentially not only incentivizing, but embedding a mandated system of dialogue and conversation and focused study in order to understand it. And that's why Torah study is so rigorous. If it was all spelled out, there wouldn't need to be rigorous study. It would just literally all be there. And there's also another element, which is no matter how clearly you write it, it's always up for interpretation. I mean, think about even the Constitution, which is not that old. It's a few hundred years old. And they were probably trying to write it clearly, you would imagine. And yet, even till today, no one can agree on what the Second Amendment means, what this amendment means, what that amendment means. So many major disputes, Supreme Court disputes amongst Supreme Court justices as to what that document means. So I'll ask you a question. Why couldn't they have written it clearly? I don't know. But I think that's my third answer, is as clearly as you're going to write, it's never clear enough. So as clearly as Torah is, it's never fully clear. God wants to incentivize it. Number two, I'm just going in reverse order. And number one, practically speaking, it's got to be written somewhat in concise language.
Is there a risk, though, that like eye for an eye, yes, people that are not knowledgeable about interpretations are going to take it literally?
100%. Yes. Yes. Which also embeds in it a certain surrender to the meaning and also the ability for free choice. Like, for example, when God writes, let us make man, plural, let us make man. The angel said to God, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing that? Like, just say, let me make man. Like, don't do the plural. You're going to confuse people. God says, I'm going to write it as I write it and let those who want to make a mistake, which means, honestly, God wants there needs to be the possibility to make the mistake in order for there to be free choice. Even within Torah interpretation, what makes the real interpretation valuable is that there's another way to look at it, which is not only another valid way, 70 facets, but it could be misinterpreted. Everything can be misinterpreted. And I think there's something powerful about that in validating the tradition. I know it sounds kind of backwards maybe, but there's something to that in my head, at least. I don't know if I'm articulating that. All right, let's continue back into the civil laws. If a bull, now it's no longer a person harming somebody else, but it's a person's animal damaging someone else. If a bull, like if you have a farm, right, it's your bull, and a bull gores a man or a woman, and the person dies, God forbid, the bull shall surely be stoned. Capital punishment for the animal. Look at that. And its flesh shall not be eaten, and the owner of the bull is clear. In other words, the owner of the bull is off the hook. because what are you going to do? It's a bull. However, that's only if you didn't know it was going to happen. But if it is a habitually goring bull since yesterday and the day before yesterday, in other words, if the bull has shown and demonstrated a violent streak and a propensity to damage other people, and its owner had been warned, but he did not guard it, and it puts to death a man or a woman, you see what's going on here? The bull shall be stoned, and also its owner shall be put to death. That's huge. That's major. If a person is owning something dangerous, and they know it's dangerous, and they fail, they're negligent in safeguarding it, and that harms or maims and kills another person, capital punishment not only for the animal, but also for the owner. Insofar as ransom shall be levied upon him, he shall give the redemption of his soul according to all that is levied upon him. What does that mean? All right. We ran into this yesterday also. Let's see if there's a quick Rashi on 30. I would have to look into this. I think it's talking now not about a case of death, but injury. If there's injury, then you pay for the injury. I think that's what it's saying, because it's talking about ransom, which is monetary. We just said if it kills, there's a capital punishment, right? There's stoning the animal and the owner being put to death. But then it's flipping to some sort of ransom case, which is monetary payment. I think that's where it I don't know. I think that's a monetary thing if the person wasn't killed. I believe so. I have to look that up. 31, let's continue. Or if it gores a young boy or young girl, according to this ordinance, shall be done to him. If the bull gores a manservant or maidservant, he shall give silver in the amount of 30 shekels to his master, and the bull shall be stoned. And if a pit opens, okay, fine. So all of that is with bull and injury and damage and death and whatever. The central point, again, all these details, and this is very important to mention, all of these details about the bull, right? 5 verses, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, are massive amounts, dozens of pages in the Talmud. And the Talmud gets into every word and letter and context and juxtaposition, and develops a fully fleshed body of law about when your property damages or, God forbid, takes the life of another person. All of this is clearly spelled out. We would have to study the Talmud to get all the details on it, but it all comes from these verses. That's the meaning of it, but it's all fleshed out. We're not going to get a coherent sense of what the laws are in all the cases from these verses. It's giving us the cliff notes or the bullet points. All right. That's all about when your property, like your animal, your pet, whatever it is, I don't know if a bull is a pet, but your animal injures or kills. What happens? So that's another form of damage. So if you've noticed so far in our Torah portion, we've talked about 2 forms of damage. That is direct, a person directly injures or kills someone else. And now it's, you didn't do it, but your animal did it. And you're responsible for your animal, so you're responsible for what your animal did. So that's another category. Let's talk about the next category. If a person, 33, if a person opens a pit, by the way, this is all at the beginning of the tractate Bava Kama. It's one of the Babas that I mentioned yesterday, Bava Kama. It talks about Arba Avis Nezikin, 4 types of damages, categories. Either a person does it, your animal does it, or it's indirect, as we're about to talk about. If a person, verse 33, this is indirect damage done by a person. If a person opens a pit, or if a person digs a pit, in other words, let's say there's a manhole cover right in the middle of the street, and it's covered, and then you lift it off and you open up the opening. You didn't dig it, but you opened it up and you made it fall in a bowl, right? You with me? Or if a person digs the pit from the beginning and does not cover it, and a bull or a donkey falls into it, right? You get the scenario, right? You dig a hole in the middle of the street, and someone's animal falls into it, so the owner of the pit, the one who dug it, shall pay. He shall return money to its owner, and the dead body shall be his. So let's say a bull or a donkey falls into the pit and dies. So you got to pay for the value of the animal that died. And then the carcass of the animal, I guess, could be yours because you paid for the animal. You paid the full price for the live animal. So who gets the carcass? I know it sounds like really like a nitpicking question. All right, the dead body shall be his. We're going to get back to the bull. All right. So this is again a new category, and this is very important to speak about. I want to focus on it. It's quick, but in the Torah, but I want to speak about it for a moment. Again, this is what I call indirect damage. You didn't kill the other guy's animal. The pit fell into a pit, but who dug the pit or who opened up the manhole cover? You did that. In other words, you didn't directly cause the damage, but you facilitated the circumstances that the damage should occur. Had you not dug that pit, that animal would still be alive. Had you not opened the manhole cover. And the same is true also, God forbid, if a person would get injured, right? Or if it's not a pit, let's say you put a package, a stone, a rock, something in the way. Let's say on the sidewalk or on the street, whatever, you decide to put a big obstacle that, well, maybe not big, maybe like it's hard to see, but it's an obstacle, and somebody trips over it and hurts themselves. Who's liable? The Torah is answering it right here. All of these laws about liability in cases of indirect damage are right here. I mean, this is the core of it. It's elaborated on in the Talmud, but this is the core of it. You are liable for damage, not only that you commit directly, not only that your animal commits, but that happened indirectly due to your negligence in either creating a dangerous scenario in a place. All right. Hope that makes sense. Let's continue back to the bull. If a man's bull strikes his friend, oh, here we go. This is bull on bull. Before it was bull on human, now it's bull on bull violence. Now it's my bull striking your bull. So if a man's bull strikes his friend's bull and it dies, they shall sell the live bull and divide the money received for it, and they shall also divide the dead body. Okay, we're not going to get the halacha from this. It's different than what it sounds here. Basically, you pay for the value of the animal that died. That's what it is. Or if it was known that it was a habitually goring bull since yesterday and the day before yesterday, and its owner does not watch it. Oh, I'm sorry. Whoops. In verse 35, you take the value of the bull that was killed and you divide it in half. You don't divide the actual dead body. You divide the value of the animal in half and you pay chatzi nezek, half the damage. Why half? Because the assumption here is you didn't know that you had a violent bull. You thought you had a normal bull, right? You didn't know you had a violent, death-mongering bull. But verse 36, if it was known that it was a habitually goring bull since yesterday and the day before yesterday, as we explained before regarding when it kills here it's killing another animal, and its owner does not watch it, then he shall surely pay a bull for a bull, and the dead body shall be his. Then you got to pay the full amount. So again, two laws. If you didn't think your animal was going to kill another animal, you're on the hook for 50% of the damage. If you should have known better, 100% of the damage. In halakha terminology, the first case is called tam, which means kind of simple or innocent. You didn't know your bull was going to kill another bull, so we have a little bit rachmanas on you. Fine, you still have to pay, but half. But if you knew already, if it's a mood, if it's already established pattern of violence, and you didn't sufficiently watch your animal and it kills another animal, that's it, 100%. All right, next law. If a man steals a bull or a lamb and slaughters it or sells it, he shall pay 5 cattle for the bull and 4 sheep for the lamb. So generally, if you steal, you have to pay back twice. So if you steal, if one steals $100, you got to return it And then there's another $100 fine on top of that for the fine for theft. That's like a punishment for the theft. It's not just returning it. Where's the punishment? That's just giving it back. The punishment is another instance of it. So double the original amount. Fine. So instead of giving back 100, you have to give 100 plus another 100. But when it comes to this case, when you steal a bull or a lamb, and then you slaughter it or sell it, so there's another transfer that happens to it, some sort of transfer of condition, then not only do you have to give back the value of the bull or the lamb, not only twice, but 5 times for the bull, 5 times the value for the bull, or 4 times for the lamb. So let's say a bull is worth, I don't know, I don't price out oxen on the side. I'm not on the oxen market, but let's say it's worth $1,000. I don't know, maybe more, maybe less. 1,000 sounds right to me. Who knows, right? $1,000 for a bull. Person steals a bull and sells it, and they're busted. You got to pay now $5,000 back to the original owner. That's a hefty theft, a hefty thefty. 5K in the hole right here. What about a lamb, right? Mary had a little lamb, and if you take it and sell it or shecht it, slaughter it, yeah, now Mary has 4 lambs. Boom. That's the way that works. 4 times the value for the lamb. Make sense? Again, we can maybe throw some Kabbalah here, the Kabbalah of bulls and lambs, but it's kind of like very much civil law. All right, here we go. Let's continue. Let the good times roll. If while breaking in a new topic, the thief is discovered and is struck and dies, it is as if he has no blood. Right? If you are in self-defense mode and the thief is coming in and you stop the thief with fatal harm, I don't know if I'm saying this correctly. If you stop the thief from breaking into your home by killing them, the Torah says no blood. In other words, wasn't a capital offense because they broke into your house. If the sun shone upon him, it is as if he has no blood. The sun shining upon him means if it's clear as day. Oh, I'm sorry. If the sun shone upon him, it is as if he has blood. In other words, if it's clear as day, as the sun, that this person was not going to kill you, you were not in danger. The only thing they wanted was your stuff, theft, and you killed them, then there is blood. It is bloodshed. He shall surely pay. If he has no money, he shall be sold for his theft. All right. Again, we got to look that up. See, these disjointed verses, the Talmud explains exactly what it means and elaborates on it. We don't have the Talmud in front of us, and we don't have the time or the breadth to go through it right now. But these are multiple cases I could see between the front and the back, and the back of the text of this verse. If the stolen article is found, okay, I think this is going back in general to theft. In a case of theft, so he shall surely pay. If he has no money, you can't pay, then you're sold for your theft. Remember we talked about slavery before and what that is? And I explained that slavery is not slavery, because like the moment you touch your slave, they're done, right? You're not their master anymore. Slavery was only a way for somebody to earn money to pay back a debt in a way that's very focused on earning money to pay back the debt. So if he has no money, he shall be sold for his theft. That's the context of slavery, right? I want to give you an example. I don't mean it to sound horrible, but I want to give an example. I hate using real people as an example, but I'm going to do it because everybody knows about it. Remember Bernie Madoff? Right? Pretty bad, right? The guy stole a lot of money, pretty rotten, and people were out like billions of dollars. I want to ask you a question, but understand where it's coming from and honestly share with me your opinion. What's better for the victims? That Bernie, why can't I say his name? Why can't I remember? Bernie Madoff. That Bernie Madoff sits in prison for the rest of his life? What's better for the victims? Or that he work and pay restitution and get all the money back? If you were the victim, what would you rather have? Him in jail or your money back and maybe extra? What would you rather?
Money back.
Who would disagree? And yet our system is such that we don't do that. That we lock people up.
I'd rather have the money back, but he could never repay that money for 300 years.
I'm with you. But let's say he's got a way to do it. Now, so the problem with Bernie Madoff is that it's an extreme sum. But I just wanted to use an example of where the Torah's perspective is coming from. If somebody steals or whatever, and somebody now has to pay back, and it's a lot of money, and they say, I don't have the money. So you know what we say? You know the famous cliche, if you go to the restaurant and you can't pay the bill, go to the kitchen and wash dishes. That's basically what it's saying. That's basically what the Torah is saying. Sold for his theft means, all right, you got to work now. No break. I mean, not no breaks. I mean, you don't have to work 24/7, but now your job is to work to pay back this debt. And then you can go back to earning your own money for your own family and for your own bills. So now you got to work to pay back the debt. And then we can talk about that once that's done. I just used the Bernie Madoff example just kind of as a perspective on what justice really is and how our society may have a different sense of what justice is. There's two ways to look at justice. Justice is, you hurt me, I'm going to hurt you. That's one sense of justice, which is not what the Torah says about an eye for an eye. That's not what it means. Real justice is compensation. That's what real justice is. Real justice is making the other person whole again, right? They're out now $1 million, get them back that $1 million plus maybe two, plus another one, right? Maybe give them back 2 million. That's what real justice is.
It's like debtor's prison never pays. You go to prison, correct. You're in debt. You can't get out of debt if you're in prison.
Correct. So this verse and this conversation, which I'm very happy we're having, clarifies a few things. Number one, a Jewish perspective on the meaning on justice is, but it also clarifies the whole beginning context of this week's Torah portion about slavery and what's the context of a slave and what does it mean? It's not slavery for the sake of owning someone. Owning. It's about somebody who literally has a massive debt, a major debt that they need to pay off. They can't just go back to their job and use the money extra on the side to pay back the debt. It's too much. They need to work now. No more job. Now you're working this job. All the money is going to go to pay back the debt, and that's it. And once you're done, you're done. Fine. Let's continue. If the stolen article, we said this before. If the stolen article is found in his possession, whether a bull, a donkey, or a lamb, live ones, okay. We said before that if he slaughtered it or sold it, it's 5 or 4 times the amount. But if it's still there in his possession, the stolen goods, he shall pay twofold. That's what I mentioned to you before. Typically, theft is repaid double. But if you slaughtered it, as we said before, slaughtered or sold it, in other words, you can no longer produce it and say, here it is, then you have to 5 or 4 times for cattle or for sheep or for land. Yeah, for sheep. Okay, but there's a lot of different things here. And I want to get back to the idea of a thief and protecting your home and your property. Torah says you're allowed to protect your property, but you cannot use lethal force if the person is not going to use lethal force against you. If the person is just coming to steal, you can stop them, right? But you can't, but not by any means possible, not by killing them. It's only if your life is at risk, then you're allowed to protect your life by taking their life. And not even, if you can do it without, then certainly do without, but you're allowed to go up to that point, but only if your life is in danger. Now, what if you don't know? If the thief is carrying a gun or knife or is unarmed, okay, that's a bit of a gray area. And then you might be okay if I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying the law might be understanding if you, I don't know. I'm not sure. You have to, I'm not going to continue the sentence. We would have to look that up and proceed with caution. The Torah gives us 2 scenarios. Number 1, if your life is at risk, you're allowed to defend your life by taking a life. If your life is not at risk, you cannot, there's no allowance to take a life. Let's jump into the third reading. It's late already, and I feel like there's so many laws and details. It's like a little bit mind blowing, whatever. It's like it's a lot to carry in the head. I think we're gonna stop here because the hits keep on rolling. Okay. let's pause here and we're gonna pick this up. But I'm realizing now that we're running into a bit of a challenge because, as I have not told you this yet, but I have another obligation that has come up tomorrow that will preclude me from doing DPP. I'm going to send out an email to all those that are not here that usually come as well, so that they know, but I'll just let you guys know. I'm unable to teach DPP tomorrow. I have something that came up that I need to be at for tomorrow. And Thursday, that's Wednesday, and Thursday is JLI, which means next up Friday, and we're only up to the third reading. Wow. Maybe. Okay.
You're going to have to work on the Cliff Notes.
I'm going to have to work on the Cliff Notes. Yeah, we may not be able to read every verse. I may have to, which is a departure from the way we usually do it. I may have to summarize some of it, but I'll already think about, by Friday, I have a few days now. I'm going to think about how best to do this, because literally, I think I mentioned this yesterday, every verse has one or two laws that are worlds unto themselves. So it's like, I mean, it's exhausting in a beautiful way, but it's a lot to explore and think about and ponder. So, and also again, we're out tomorrow due to this unexpected thing, and Thursday due to JLI. So, okay, I got my homework cut out for me, and we'll make it work. We're going to make it work. I'm going to probably choose selected highlights and highlight certain themes and verses, and we'll get more or less the flow. All right.
Rabbi?
That's it for today. Yeah,
Rabbi,
go ahead.
So Thursday weather is expected to be warm.
Let me take a look at it. What is it?
It's very warm. Yeah, as of today, there's a slight chance of rain, but it's going to be warm.
I haven't checked. I was out before for the sitter party, and it was nice. It was a little chilly in the morning, but it warmed up. Let's see what we have.
You have the heaters too.
I have an app right here. Let's see what it says. Thursday. Oh, some rain. Okay.
Well, as of now.
Yeah, I have this Thursday. I don't know if you could see that. 12 p.m. 80% showers, 60 degrees. So let's keep it as a possibility, because we've all seen how storms don't materialize or do materialize. I'm open to it. So let's keep it as an open possibility. 60 degrees is pretty nice, especially if it's nice, if it's not raining, obviously. Okay.
I don't know. I know you're comfortable in the synagogue room, but it seems that Jeff's place, if we open the doors, it just seems more airy and ventilated and things.
I'll speak again with Jonathan. He was hesitant. He's like the building guy. He was hesitant with it because it is a little bit more of people are stopping in to grab a coffee, tea, whatever, and it's a little bit more disruptive to.
I just feel about the synagogue room. It's all enclosed,
right?
And there's no ventilation.
Maybe we can prop doors open and keep the fan, force the fan to be on.
Yeah.
I don't know if those windows actually open. I'm not sure. I've never seen them open. All right. I will work on this. I'm going to look at both the weather and also maybe to tweak the indoor option.
Thank you.
If need be. Sure. Pleasure. Listen, the goal here is to be as accommodating as possible. So let me work on this and we'll schmooze. So I feel bad. I won't see you guys. Well, I mean, I'll see you before then, right? We have tonight and tomorrow night and everything. But
no problem. We can watch recording.
There you go. Exactly.
I'm
all right.
sure it's the last year. I mean, not that you repeat the same thing, but
right.
The last year of
exactly. All right. We'll see you all. Take care. Have a wonderful day.
We
Pleasure.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Care.
Bye, Rabbi.